All right, should we get started?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. GM, I see more people joining us. Welcome to another community call for Step Finance. I'm your host, Thep. As always, I am joined by George Harrap, the co-founder of Step Finance. Welcome, George.
Hey, what's up, Thep? Good to be here as always.
I know it's been a while. I'm so excited about the topics that we're going to cover today. I guess we have a lot to cover, but we want to cover a few of them today. First, I would like to touch on the latest step update, the perp integrations and transaction history updates. And then maybe we can talk about the step data analytics early access lounge, which is very exciting. Also, I mean, the elephant is in the room, right? We'll talk about the outage that Solana experienced last week and get your thoughts on that. The last but not the least, we will talk about Solana Crossroads that's happening in Istanbul this month, which I'm very excited about. I guess we can start off by talking a little bit about the recent update for the STAP dashboard. Tell us about the latest announcement a little bit.
Yeah, so there's two really big things that happened in the last really 2-3 weeks. So 2-3 weeks ago, we had the analytics launch. We can talk about that in a moment. But yesterday was really cool. That was kind of something, a lot of those things had been brewing for a long time. So transaction history being one, and some of our perp integrations as well. Those who would have been following us from a while back know that we've done perp integrations before. We had Mango, we had Drift V1, and I think we had Bonfida when they were back doing perps back in the day. So perps are not a new thing, but I think what we're seeing now is kind of like a new lot of these different on-chain dexes coming along. You've got this new Phoenix CLOB dex launching, I think yesterday, day before. So that's like a Serum replacement, but better. Then we've also got the Serum 4 called OpenBook. That's cool on the spot side, but also now you've got Zeta and Drift. So we're pretty happy to have those in there. In fact, I posted in Discord today, I found some money which I forgot I had in Drift. So that was great. It's always good. We always see those people that post and they're like, oh, I didn't know I had some money, and Step showed me where I had my money, and now I'm one of those people. So that's great. But yeah, so Zeta, Drift, that works as you'd expect. It's part of the portfolio. All good. So then we've got the transaction history V2, which I did a bit of a thread yesterday talking a little bit about that and why it's awesome and all this sort of stuff. So I guess a bit of background. Step was the first to do a transaction history like a year and a half ago for anyone in Solana. So the first place to get a history of what happened in your wallet. Pretty important thing, right? What actually happened with my wallet. If you go to a block explorer, they'll show you just a bunch of transaction IDs, but that doesn't really tell you anything, because if you're doing some sort of complex transaction, the transaction ID will say that you've transacted some minimal dust amount of SOL, but it won't actually tell you that you were unstaking from protocol X, or you were paying back a loan or something like that. So where we want to get to, the vision for transaction history in Step is we want it to be just as good as what you would get in any sort of centralized financial application, where you literally have a spreadsheet, you can export it, and it has everything labeled nicely, every interaction that you've done, and it all makes sense. We're not quite there yet. Nobody is, but the transaction history V2 is a really good start. So V1, it only showed you transactions which we had already passed. So take a step back. There's a million different things to do on a blockchain, right? And you can't actually know what these things are unless you know what the things which people are doing are. So for example, if I go and make a new contract tomorrow and I call it, Friendly Clowns or something, and it's a staking project and you do some stuff, there's actually no way for anyone else to get information about the Friendly Clowns contract unless someone tells them, or unless they publish their contract in open source, or publish the IDLs, or provide an SDK, an API, something like that. So people are transacting all the time with a whole bunch of different new stuff on chain all the time, and it's really hard for us to be able to keep up and keep track of everything, and be able to provide that coverage of when you go to a transaction history page, you should see all the things that you've done and they should all make sense. So V1, it only showed a small subset. What we're showing now with V2 is we show everything, every single transaction that's happening in your wallet, and most of them are labeled. So that's number one, is we've got some more labeling happening, we've got indexing happening. So adding labels to transactions, like what protocol it is, that will become way quicker and way easier in the future. So that's number one. And number two, all of the things in your wallet are now being indexed. So you'll see that when you scroll through your transaction history, it loads really quickly. Compared with the V1, which actually, when you pressed scroll to the next page to load the next 20 different things, it actually hit the nodes and sent a request on our RPC cluster, and it was just slow, right? So that's another thing. The third thing is you'll see it's limited to 100 records at the moment. That's on purpose, and that's because the whole CSV downloading thing, history of a wallet, we're looking at that as more of a paid feature. That's something which people have requested in the past for tax purposes and whatever else. So, like, I've been talking about step subscriptions for a while, and that'll be one of the things. But we wanted to offer something for free, and also, keep that parity with functionality from V1. So that's transaction history V2, I guess, in a nutshell. For us going forward, we need to be labeling more different protocols. So more things appear instead of unknown in your transaction history, they'll appear as what they are. We cover most DeFi protocols now. So I think Orca, Radium, Quarry, Atrix, Whirlpools, a whole bunch of different things. I can't remember, but there's a lot. But there's still more. So we're going to be labeling more of them, but they'll be coming in subsequent updates. In fact, I think we're getting together an update now with a bunch of those things. So very cool, very excited. And then where we get to, as I mentioned, is that CSV export, but it's also things like APIs. A lot of people have requested, hey, Step has all of this data to show. Can I show it in my app? And there's actually no easy way for us to do that at the moment. So this is sort of one step that might help to be able to fulfill people's needs and curiosities of whatever they're building. We've had discussions in the past with, like I said, tax companies which they do crypto tax, and they're like, hey, our business is crypto tax. We just need an API for the Solana blockchain for you to tell us what happens in someone's wallet, and nobody does that correctly at the moment. And if they were to go to a block explorer, doesn't make sense, because they're just going to see a bunch of transaction IDs, a bunch of dust sol, and that doesn't tell you anything about, hey, I unstaked here, I paid back a loan here. All of that is the actually important information. Just a list of transaction IDs, nobody cares about it. It's not useful. So someone's got to do the hard work of labeling, right? So that's where we want to get to.
Right. So it was the biggest announcement of 2023, right? The Step Analytics app. I know you touched on some things that that covers, but I want to hear about what should the audience expect more coming for that, and who can access it now, and maybe we can touch on the Step's unique positioning on this approach.
Yeah, so the analytics app is something I've been talking about for a while on multiple community calls, and that's really the future for us. So, we are a dashboard, yes, but we're actually a lot more than a dashboard, and the product is a lot more than that as well. So, what people know Step for, and what people come to Step every day, is to find out what on earth's going on with their wallet. And to do that, we have to hook into all of these different protocols. We have to integrate with them in various ways. Literally everyone on the blockchain we have to integrate with. So we've done a really good job with that on the dashboard, and also on the NFT side with our acquisition last year of Solana floor, we've been able to accelerate a lot of what's happening in the NFT world. So that's been great. But really where things are leading to is, cool, you can find information about your wallet, but what about showing me the APY of this yield farm in, I don't know, April the 17th last year? Like, can anyone do that? Nobody can do that right now. So analytics, that's where we're headed. And what you can do now on analytics.step.finance is you can see our first MVP launch for our analytics. That's literally, it's about a third of what we wanted to launch with. We have a couple more modules coming, which I can talk about in a moment. But right now we've got the DeFi on Solana module, which is indexing every farm, LP, liquidity pools, token prices, a lot of different things across the DeFi world. So you'll be able to see APYs, liquidity, compare that, see historical pricing. All of that information is on chain. So, and you can also look at all of the markets associated with a certain token, which I think is probably the most useful thing, is discovering which pools the tokens are actually part of and where they're being used. So that's what we've launched very recently, and we're very excited to get that out the door. A lot of hard work's gone into that, and a lot of people talk about indexing, and there's quite a few people that do indexing these days, but no one quite does what Step does, in that it's very easy, or, well, it is easier to find out that an Orca contract had 50,000 interactions today. But it's a lot harder to tell the APY of that Orca contract. And that's because you actually, you can't just look at the transactions going in and out to tell that information. So there's actually quite a bit of work and quite a large data overhead required to be able to index the state of that contract over time, rather than just the interactions which are happening on that contract. So what analytics I think is getting to is the Step app, the dashboard, will tell you about your wallet. That'll tell you everything about it, and that's all well and good. But what about someone else's wallet, or the chain in general, or tokens in general? That's where the analytics product comes in. And much like Nansen as a product, or Glassnode, or Dune, these are very successful analytics products. They're used as a reference, as a talking point, and people rely on them. And they have various paid plans, up from free to paid. So again, that also builds into the tokenomics of Step as well. That's where 100% of future revenues and stuff will come from. But yeah, so that's what we're building towards. And I think this release is it's great to get out the door, but also it means that in future we can build on this foundation that we've got there already with the analytics platform, and we're able to iterate on it a lot quicker. But yeah, that's most of last year's work went into this analytics platform in some way or another. So yeah, it's very cool. Everyone should go check it out.
Absolutely, and we would love your feedback. As you know, you guys can find us in our Discord channel, general, or whichever channel you would prefer to talk about this. I would love to hear users' feedback. We all do. So please do share your experiences, your feedback. The next topic I would like to touch on is the last Solana validator update, and it being a bit of a flop, as you know, causing the chain to fork and ultimately to be restarted. Maybe we can touch on that a little. Can you explain to our audience what happened there, and how did Solana recover? And then maybe after that, we can mention our involvement on being a step up validator.
Yeah, so I'm actually not that well versed in everything that went on. The TLDR is that there was a new update. The update messed up, and then people had to revert to the previous state, and all of the validators had to get together and do what they've done before, and agree on a state, and trying to get all of these decentralized, however many nodes there are out there, people to do the same thing at the same time is quite hard. But eventually that happened, and it was restarted in I don't know how many hours it was, whatever it was. Obviously pretty bad happened before. Unfortunate to see. But I think there was a post I was reading just before from Anatoly, and it was all about this year's focusing on a lot of stability changes, and they're doing some stuff with Solana Labs and the team internally to make that a key focus. So that's good to see. It's good to see sort of positive developments there. I think at the end of the day, it wasn't as huge of an impact as it has been in before for various reasons. But yeah, I think, look, not good to see, but it's fine. You know, it seems like people are still interested to look at what Solana's got going on outside of these unfortunate validator instances. But talking about validators, actually, in our last update, we've added the step validator, which I said was so the step validator staking to our app in yesterday's update. So you can literally press the stake button and you'll stake on the step validator. The cool thing about that is, so Step's just one of the many apps out there which are running a validator now. And we pretty much took a lead from Samo and some of the other peeps in the ecosystem. I think it'd be really cool to see all of these different DeFi apps like running their own validators, because then they introduce their community to it. Also, you can't get rugged on delegating a validator stake. So you can't, like, when you stake your soul at a validator, uh, using the Solana native staking. So you don't actually like give your coins to someone. And if they turn off their validator and run away, like you don't lose your money. Like you can always redeem your stake at any time from the chain. So that's a really cool thing. And it's something that maybe people that aren't too familiar with DeFi or just sort of getting into it, like that's not the case with most staking and most yield farms. Usually if you stake your coins somewhere, it's in a contract, and then whoever's running the contract could potentially run away. But validator staking is quite different. So you literally got nothing to lose. You might as well. And a lot of these different apps out there, they'll introduce that to their community. They'll get people involved with doing that. Some people have liquid staking. Cool, like that's another different type of risk. It's not the same as the native staking. So in our case, we're doing native staking. So there is no like liquid coin, which you're getting in return. But you can, if you want, I think a Soulblaze, you can stake on any validator and get a Soulblaze BSOL token in return. So you could do that with Step. And I think we've spoken about that as well on step.finance/learn. We walk through people through that. But yeah, so validator staking, really cool. It's in our latest update. Step validator, I think, is in top 50. It pretty much went to top 50 like 2 days after it launched. There's like 200 and something K stake there, I think. So that's really cool to see. But yeah, exciting. I want every team to run a validator. Like these days, there's a million people that are offering validator as a service products. And for us, we're with Triton. We've been with Triton for pretty much since the beginning, since literally Triton started. So yeah, that's been great. And yeah, they help manage our validators, so we don't need to think about it. But yeah, very cool.
It is. All right, so my favorite subject. Let's talk about Crossroads now. One of the biggest events of 2023. So we're getting closer to the date, March 31st through April 2nd. Tell us about what's going on there. Are we wrapping things up? What are the numbers that you can share with us, and exciting speaker list?
Yeah, very cool. So Solana Crossroads is our initiative that we started, paid for, and did everything like that probably like 4 or 5 months ago. The thesis is this: in order for crypto to grow to the next billion users, the next billion users are not sitting in California or in New York or in one of these big cities that a lot of people like to focus on because that's where financial things are. It's actually with the 7 billion people around the world, and it's with various geographies and countries around the world, of which crypto is perhaps not as well known to the English-speaking world, but is super big and important. So Turkey is one of those countries. Turkey has, by many accounts, up to 35 million I've heard as well, crypto users. So that's like half the country, 50% of the country. We've spoken to exchange CEOs here that said, last year or in the bull market, they had 1 million signups a month. And you can walk down the street here and you'll see I literally have an OTC shop like 2 minutes walk from me. And so does everyone. So it's one of the places I bought my house in crypto here as well. So it's one of these really cool places that has an actual real use case, and it has millions of people using crypto, right? So as far as I'm concerned, far more interesting than anywhere else in the world. So, when we were thinking that, hey, we want to grow the pie and we want to grow the ecosystem, we need to reach out to these places. What are you going to do? Right? Are you going to make a Discord and then go, hey, man, everyone from Turkey or Vietnam or Thailand or Indonesia or somewhere can just go into the Discord and then we can just vibe. And that's how we grow crypto. Not really. That's not how you grow crypto. So you actually have to have a presence on the ground in many cases. And really, I think one way to bring the world together in one place, conferences do a good job of that, right? They work. They've been around for a long time, and certainly lots of crypto conferences do a really good job of that. Breakpoint being one. Breakpoint last year for Solana, it had like 4,000 almost people, and it was, I think, one of the larger crypto conferences out there for anything. I think you got Bitcoin Miami. I think you had that NFT New York one, and then Breakpoint. So yeah, in terms of numbers, very big, and people all around the world go to these things. So we wanted to do that, and we have. So we've started Solana Crossroads. It's in Istanbul, Turkey, starting on the 31st of March, literally this month, and we've got Chris as well in the chat, who's been very big on making sure that all goes smoothly. And so currently we have a really nice venue, which is the Hilton in Nishantashi, which we booked out for, well, technically it's like 500 capacity, 500, 600 maybe. But we have 850 signups already, and it's growing. I mean, probably in 2 days it'll be 1,000. We had the Solana Hacker House here last week, and that was one of their largest hacker houses they've ever done. In fact, I think it was number 2 after New York, something like that. They had over 1,300 signups, I think. So very cool. We were there, of course, meeting a lot of peeps on the ground, but very exciting. That's about growing up your community, and that's how you do it. So we're going to be doing Crossroads. We have, I think, about 15, 20 speakers already from all around the ecosystem, as well as locally. It's going to be focused on emerging markets. So we have people not only from Turkey, but also around the world, just talking about crypto, how pretty much entrepreneurs, growth, how can we, what are people doing in various markets, how does it work, all this sorts of stuff. We also have a lot of building sessions. So there's going to be a lot of devs and peeps there. We're partnering with Super Team for that. Super Team have a DAO and a bunch of bounties and very cool developer stuff. And they've created a community from nothing to something very significant in a matter of literally 3 months. So definitely go and check out Super Team. But so there'll be a lot of engineers there and a lot of people learning and wanting to get into projects. Talking about Grizzlython as well. Grizzlython is the Solana Worldwide Hackathon. We'll also be tying into that. Have a pitch day or pitch session at the end of the main conference day, and maybe some prizes as well. So usual sort of conference stuff, but all of this is necessary, number one, to grow. And number two, this is not we're doing it once and then see you later for next year. Actually, it's an ongoing thing. And we want to do 3, maybe 4 of these this year. And this is going to be sort of a key brand for Step. So Step is Step Finance, obviously, but with the Solana Floor acquisition, we're also Solana Floor. And now we're also Solana Crossroads with this sort of IRL part. Now, we also have a news section now for NFTs, solanafloor.com/news. We want to be like the CoinDesk for NFTs. So there's a lot of things really going on, and it's all about sort of harmonizing a lot of these things and linking back to each other and these sorts of things. But it's all with the intention of growth. and that's what we need to do. That's what everyone needs to do. We need more people in the ecosystem, crypto in general, but Web3 in general, but also to Solana land, and we want to be that portal. So definitely, if you can make it, come on down. If not, join the Discord. We can talk about all sorts of cool stuff there. We have a great community, but yeah, Crossroads, very exciting, and we also the foundation is partnering with us now on that. So that's also a really cool advancement which has happened in the last few weeks. So yeah,
That's right. So I know you just listed the things that we've been working on, but one thing you missed is the Next Billion podcast. I think we're on episode 16 now.
yeah, and I just recorded another one today.
You did.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about that for a minute to allow people to be exposed to that, because we definitely can use more people to watch that podcast. There's so much alpha, not only Solana ecosystem, but a lot of big brains from the crypto space are actually joining and talking about their future ideas, what they have in mind. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So again, the podcast goes towards this key theme of growth, and it's all about outreach. It's about engagement. It's about getting more eyes on the prize. So really, the podcast is an integrated part of all of these other things which we're doing. So we have a podcast where it's called The Next Billion. We're talking about onboarding the next billion people into crypto. I'm hosting, but I talk to all of the different founders, entrepreneurs, people that are building really cool stuff, predominantly in the Solana ecosystem, but probably more broad as well. But for now, we're on episode 16, I think, publicly, but there's maybe another 3 in the backlog, I think. So that's all very exciting. We also have some pretty cool ideas for the podcast as well. Like, it might not be just a sort of interview kind of setup in future. Like, I mentioned these walking down the street and seeing all these cash to crypto shops, and you can go and do $1 million cash at any of these shops and $10 million cash in many, and nobody cares. Like, they're not even going to ask you for ID. Like, that's cool. So imagine if that was an episode of a podcast. That'd be pretty cool. So I think there's some cool things for us to do around the podcast. It's not just interviews. Obviously, at the conference, we'll have some interviews going on there. At Breakpoint, we did also. We rented an Airbnb and interviewed a bunch of peeps there. So yeah, there will be more cool stuff coming as well with the podcast. Maybe more sort of documentary style or something like that, which I'm looking forward to. I think that's going to be really cool. But yeah, go check it out. The Next Billion.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess we're wrapping things up. Thanks, George. It's a pleasure as always. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And please know that you guys can always find us in the Step Discord. The whole team is very active, as most of you know. We can chat about the recent updates that we covered today. Your feedback is something that we value and we would love to hear. So I guess I'll see you all there.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on down. And yeah, go join the Discord. Come hang out. But yeah, great. See you guys. Peace out.
Cheers, everyone.